Welcome back, listeners. I'm David Hensley, captain of the SS Long Walk Talks Lost, currently docked near a strange island somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. I am joined tonight by my bosun,
Cara Hayes,
and my first mate,
Robert Bradford. Full sails ahead.
And we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective now in Season 4, and it's a bit of a change-up tonight because throughout the first 3.5 seasons, we were tackling 3, sometimes, rarely, on a few occasions, 4 episodes at a time. Tonight, we are only doing 2 because after this, we've got the 3-part season finale left. So tonight, we are going to be talking about episode 410, Something Nice Back Home, and 411, Cabin Fever. But first, we had a themed cocktail when we watched this week. Robert, tell the listeners at home about the cocktails that you made us.
So trying to commit to this idea of replacing a meal with just like a themed drink or beverage, I started looking things up. And thankfully, of our 2 episodes tonight, one of them focused on Jack, which, okay, obvious choice for a spirit there. So I Googled Jack Daniels cocktails and found one called the Jackknife, fitting for an episode where Jack undergoes surgery, and also one where the second episode we did is about Knife Nut John Locke. So the beverage is Jack Daniels and Bailey's, kind of a eggnoggy creamed whiskey drink. Very heavy, very boozy. I would not have had.
Yeah, I'm glad we only all had one because by the time I have a pretty high alcohol tolerance, and by the time I was getting to the bottom of that, we were watching the episodes and I was like, am I tipsy? I feel like I might be a little tipsy. I finished mine. Cara, how did you do on yours?
I think I got 5 glugs in, like sips, like little glugs. I struggle with brown liquor. I keep trying it though.
And then you throw dairy-based liquor on top of it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like Bailey's, like I generally tend to like that. I tried. It was very tasty. It did cut down sort of on the Jack flavor. But yeah, it was just a little much. So maybe like next time, no brown liquor.
Well, we'll talk about it when we get to the next episode, but I think I've got something in line for the finale that might be more to your taste.
Woo!
You are, however, talking to 2 guys who love bourbons and whiskeys and scotches and ryes. And
I know. And I mean, of all the themed cocktails, we haven't had anything that wasn't one of those things. So, maybe do one for your bosun.
Okay, you convinced us.
Thanks.
It's a season about a ship at sea, so we should have rum somewhere in the line anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it has to be clear rum, clearly.
Right.
All right, so we are going to dive into episode 410, Something Nice Back Home, which is on days 98 and 99 on the island. Actually, both of these episodes kind of overlap. They're both days 89 or 88 through 89. I'm way off. Days. I'm just going to keep reversing numbers all night long. How about that? Days 98 through 99. There we go. And this is a Jack episode. And like so many before, it starts off with an eye watch. Except instead of opening the eyes and staying open, Jack is on the struggle bus already, right off the bat at the beginning of this episode.
Yeah, because as we saw at the end of last episode, he's starting to, something is hitting him, he's under the weather, and it's bad timing because now that everybody on the beach knows that Daniel is lying about what the freighter is saying, and I think Faraday outright admitted that they weren't there on a rescue mission. Now everybody on the beach is just kind of surrounding them and yelling, and Rose especially is just delightfully like cutting through all the crap, and at one point I think tells Charlotte like stay out of this, Red, or something, which is just it's fun to see her just taking names while she's cutting through it all.
Yeah, Rose and Bernard just continue to be the best. We love them. We stand them in our households. The flash forwards for this episode are Jack shortly before the breakdown that he has that we see at the end of season 3. And it's not often that we write down quotes from each other, but every once in a while, somebody, one of us, one of the 3 of us, or my wife Katie, or Robert's wife, Gina, will say something that we're like, oh, we got to put that in. And this time it was Cara, because Jack's flash forward starts with him waking up in bed and getting a reminder call and gets up naked, to which Cara said, oh, he naked. And then as Jack is walking around to the bathroom, he looks down and sees a pair of frilly red underwear on the ground. When Cara continued, and he wears pretty panties. Those, however, belong not to Jack, however.
Yeah, there's kind of an attempt at suspense when he goes to the shower and we can't see who's in there. But the subtitles just immediately identify them as Kate. So, yeah, not really a surprise when he opens the door and they kiss and we find out that Kate finally settled on Archie. I mean Jack instead of Reggie. I mean Sawyer in this triangle. So yeah, she is not just in a relationship with Jack. It seems that she and Aaron have actually moved in with him, which is a change from where they were after the trial, where Jack was trying to keep his distance. Now he's trying to, be kind of a surrogate dad to his nephew.
And have less distance.
Exactly.
Like melded together. Gross.
He's even reading, I want to say Alice in Wonderland, but not sure if it was that or Through the Looking Glass, but a little literary shout out from the writers is, just this kind of brief glimpse of Jack seeming really happy and domestic. He's, and he actually gets kind of emotional when Kate tells him, "You're good at this," which
you're a natural.
Yeah, it's kind of a sweet scene. I know, and we'll get into it. None of us are really high on the Jack-Kate relationship in general, but from a standpoint of where Jack's character is versus where he's currently on the island and where we know he's going to end up, this is an interesting midpoint.
This was a tough episode for Cara.
Yeah.
But back on the island, Jack is just looking like hell warmed over. He's just pale, sweaty, and we talked about it back in season 1, just how the makeup team would just make Matthew Fox look miserable for the episodes where he's like chasing Ethan through the jungle or whatever. They haven't gotten to do that in a while, and they clearly were happy to have this chance again.
They did a good job.
Yeah, he does look like he's dying. So as Sawyer and Miles and Claire and Aaron are hiking back through the jungle to get to the beach, we get another Sawyer nickname watch. He calls Miles Donger, which we had to stop and rewind to be like, what did he call him? And then we realized, oh, that's a 16 Candles reference to Long Duck Dong. And yeah, Sawyer may have grown a lot as a character, but he's still a little bit racist.
I think later on he wakes up and Miles says something to him, and Sawyer just goes, "It's too early for Chinese" or something, which is just like, come on, man, you're not even trying to season the racism.
Oh, season the racism. Wow, I love that.
But they do, on their trek back from the barracks over to try to link up with the rest of the survivors, Miles starts hearing his voices, and I remember watching this for the first time. I was very sad because even though we saw Rousseau get shot through the chest and go down, a lot of people kind of hoped maybe, she's a survivor. Maybe she pulled herself off into the forest somehow and survived. No. Miles finds their hastily buried bodies of Rousseau and Carl, confirming that Keamy's team did not leave any survivors. So, yeah, sad to see you go, Rousseau.
And to add insult to injury, they were only barely buried. In fact, they find poor Carl's face sticking out of the dirt. Like, what an ignominious end for what could have been an interesting character.
I'm trying to remember if we find out that somebody else came along and buried them, because that really doesn't seem like the thing that Keamy's group would have bothered with. I mean, we know there are others on the island and like people who might have come by and just buried them quickly, but I don't remember if that's ever brought up again or not.
I don't think it is, but before Cara got here, Robert and I were discussing, like, what do we remember about the last 2 seasons? So could be wrong about that. Well, per Cara's suggestion last week, I added a Tempting Fate watch, which seems like kind of late in the show to be doing that, but now that the writers have it feels like the writers have a pretty good idea of where everything is going, and they're really leaning heavily into the foreshadowing now. This seems like a good place to start it. So our brand new Tempting Fate watch, as Sawyer is talking to Claire, who is concerned, about getting back to the beach and about the freighter and everything, Sawyer tells her, once we get back to the beach, everything's gonna be fine. No, sorry, Sawyer. Claire isn't going to make it back to the beach. We find that out next episode.
Yeah, because I have questions.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah. And finally, 10 episodes into the season, Jack has something to do in the way of getting appendicitis. That's his big thing for this season. After we start off like, oh man, it's going to be Jack versus Locke. There's going to be a battle for the ages, man of science versus man of faith. They're split into two camps now. Jack and Kate go back to the beach and then don't really do anything for like the next 6-7 episodes, while Locke and Sawyer get the brunt of all the interesting stuff this season. But now Jack has appendicitis, so at least there's something going on. That's
true. And when they're talking about performing this beach surgery on Jack, that her name just went right out of my head. Juliet. Thank you. All I could think of was Violet, and I knew that was wrong. When she's talking to Son about, hey, do you remember where the medical hatch is? Go get, she makes like this list of things, which, I mean, I think a normal person would just be like, I could probably find you the scalpel. I don't know what any of this other shit is. And so, Charlotte and Faraday, they're going to try to be helpful. Like, hey, we'll go with you and blah, blah, blah. I know medical equipment. And
Faraday helpfully explains that he's done several animal autopsies.
Yes.
Which we know means his rats, but I think everybody else just kind of brushes by with yeah, that checks out. You seem like a weirdo.
I wanted there to be a cutaway to everybody like slowly turning their head and be like, what are you talking about? Animal autopsies.
Somebody pushes Vincent carefully behind them.
Well, if it was made today, they would. But so Charlotte makes this asinine comment. She's like, oh, they still think we're going to kill them. Well, no shit, dipshit. Like, what the fuck? Like, you kind of like never said, hey, we really don't want to kill you, because everybody seems to want to kill them on your boat.
Like, I don't blame her for being a little crabby, because again, her first encounter with the on-island people was like Locke nearly abducting her. Actually, Locke did abduct her, and Ben shot her multiple times in the chest, which she only survived due to her Kevlar. So a little crankiness I get, but yeah.
But really though.
Yeah, and Faraday does this adorable thing where he's just like, see that attitude that you have right there, Charlotte? That's why they don't trust us. And it's like, oh, Daniel, sweet Daniel. They don't trust you because of the killer Marines that are coming on helicopters. But, the attitude, I guess, is a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Faraday's personality, and I absolutely love his line deliveries. But before they can go off to get the medical supplies, Juliet decides to send Jin and Son along with Charlotte and Faraday to get to the medical hatch, and Juliet gives Jin her gun for protection, which she takes out of her butt holster. Our first one this episode. She's carrying that very distinctive looking Walther handgun.
And I just kind of made this note generally that it seems like as they're getting close to the end, we know people are getting off the island, so that there's like a clock left for how much time they have to do some of these stories. And I can imagine that the writers had, hey, what if Jack needed surgery at some point? Like somebody else had to perform surgery on him, and they just never found a time to do that in the first 3 seasons. So this was just like, get it in under the wire.
It's effective.
Very much so. It works in the context of the episode, I'll say.
It's an intense scene. We'll get to it.
So in order to do the surgery, they have to prep and clean a table, which is hard to do on a desert island with no real medical supplies. So as Bernard and Rose are cleaning off this surgery area, they're talking about whether or not it could be cosmic, that he gets appendicitis right before they're supposed to leave the island, or whether it's just a sad coincidence. And Bernard is firmly on the side of coincidence. People get sick, people get appendicitis, and Rose, who knows all too well, tells him people don't get sick on this island, they get better. Really dropping the hard truths on Bernard there.
Well, but I guess to contradict Rose, if you think about Ben, he did have the tumor on his spine.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking about that.
So, she's not exactly right, but what does that say?
I think the point is that if you come to the island with something, with a condition, you can heal. But it does seem like if you're on the island, stuff can still happen to you. Like you mentioned Ben, also the issues with pregnant women on the island. So I think that's just kind of her observation, which I don't know enough about appendicitis to say if it's the kind of thing that, like what the timetable on that is, if you could say that Jack was developing it before the crash, or if that's just something that, runs its course over a week or so. But yeah, it's an interesting point to be like, from their perspective, it's just about who gets favor bestowed on them and who doesn't, which is also going to be a big part of Locke's episode.
And to paraphrase Ben at the end of the episode, maybe the island is just a fickle bitch. So Jack decides that he is going to backseat drive his own surgery because he does not want to be knocked out. He wants Kate there with a mirror so that he can watch Juliet performing this appendectomy on him, which makes him tougher than I ever would be. Because one, knock my ass out.
Yeah.
Two, even if I have to do this awake, I'm not fucking watching. Juliet even makes a point of saying, you want to watch me stick my hand in your abdomen?
I mean, to be fair, I did want to watch the surgery on my wrist. And like, I literally asked the doctor, I was like, listen, can you just like give me like a nerve block and, I can like watch? And he's like, no. And I was like, well, fine, but I want pictures, which I have.
I am perfectly fine never seeing my insides.
Oh, it's so cool though.
Surgery videos actually do bug me a lot because it's just weird to see like a person. You're used to seeing a person as this coherent whole, and then to be like, oh, there's actually just a bunch of like pulsating meat inside.
That's what's awesome though. Like, yeah, well, I won't get into it, but yes, it's very cool.
So back in the flash forwards, Jack goes to visit Hurley and finds out that Hurley is now convinced that his therapist at this mental institution doesn't exist, so his therapy is understandably at a standstill. And I just noted that this does firmly establish this is the furthest we've gotten in the flash forwards, apart from what we saw at the end of season 3, that they've just, we're now past when Sun had her baby, we're past when Kate had her trial, and we don't quite know how this lines up with Ben and Saeed, but I think based on what Saeed said about like when he found Nadia and when she died, I think we're still past at least when Ben recruited him.
So I didn't catch it, but apparently the newspaper that Jack picks up at the beginning of the episode is dated either August 30th or 31st, 2007.
Okay.
And the game that he references, the Yankees versus the Red Sox, had actually happened. We know from Ben's episode that he came out in Tunisia around, we don't know how long it takes him to get to civilization, but when he talks to the woman at the hotel, it's
2005.
October 2005. So we know it's about 2 years later that, and in October of 2005, Nadia has already died. So sometime within that time frame, like Ben sees Saeed on TV saying, my wife has just died, don't talk to me, whatever. It has to have been fairly recent.
So the only question mark is when we saw Saeed's flash forward when he's killing people in Germany, because that's indeterminate period of time. But it is so much more fun than breaking down Michael's timeline.
It really is, because we got 2.5 years to work with. What, 2.5? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little over 2.5, because they get off the island in January of 2005, and Jack's breakdown is not too much farther. Like we see him starting to get into pills and drinking heavily. So September, October of 2007, almost 3 years they spend off island.
Do we know, obviously, Sun had her baby, let's say roughly about 6 months or so after.
So I did the math on that as well, because this is what kind of fucking nerd I am.
I love it.
She had to have conceived, since it is Jin's baby and it was not Baldy's baby, she had to have conceived in October of 2004. That would put her because of that stuff with Juliet when she gets back to the camp and they go to the medical station, that is early to mid-December 2004.
So birth in July of 2005?
Yep, that'd make Gian a July baby, just like me.
Yay, her.
Yay, cancers.
That sounded weird.
That is not what Ben said.
Okay. So that was June. Was Kate's trial before that, during that, or after that?
Presumably around the same time, if not before, because I got to imagine that everybody would be trying to resolve that pretty quickly.
So that could potentially be why Hurley is the only one who goes to see Son, because Jack and Kate are doing the Jack and Kate shuffle.
Yeah, she probably would have. I'm thinking, trials do not happen quickly. Even high-profile ones like Kate's would have been.
And also, she was like, part of her plea deal was that she couldn't leave
Right.
the state. So that actually does make sense.
Yeah.
And enough time had to have passed for Kate's trial for her and Jack to have tried to make it work with Aaron and then broken up and separated long enough that it was weird for him to come and testify at her trial and for her to see him there. I'm going to say a year. I'm going to say the majority of the Kate stuff has to be pushed to like 2006.
There probably is a
okay.
timeline that breaks all this down, but it's fun to hash it out.
It is.
Yeah.
But for three weirdos like us, yes, it's very fun.
Yes.
We do get another addition to one of our long-running counts when Jack goes to visit Hurley.
Oh, yes. Sorry. The Dead All Along watch. I thought we were still on the one above this.
And can I just say, I love every time I get to look at you
Look
and go,
over at me and I sigh.
I love it. It's so fun.
So when Jack goes to visit Hurley at the institution, Hurley straight up tells him that they're not really there because they're all dead. They all died on the island. And I'm like, God damn it. If people like stopped watching the show at this point, that's why so many people walked away saying that.
Yep.
Well, and his reasoning for it is, not out of line with what people were thinking at the time.
Yeah, things are working out. Seem to be working out really great for everybody but him. Saeed's got his hair. It's long and luxurious. And as far as Hurley knows, he's probably not too far up to date. It wouldn't surprise me if the last thing Hurley knew was Saeed and Nadia got together, reunited, and Jack and Kate are together and raising Aaron. Son's off in Korea raising her kid. So he's like, yeah, everything seems to be going great for us, doesn't it? Which also low-key foreshadows season 6.
Where the idea of death being a place of resolution and, finding your peace is something the show will actually explore, even if Hurley is not he's not correct about what's happening right now.
Yeah. And then he reveals to Jack that he's been talking to Charlie. Charlie's been coming to visit him, and they sit outside together sometimes. And Charlie gave Hurley a message to give to Jack and made him write it down so he wouldn't get it wrong. He tells Jack, "You're not supposed to raise him, Jack." At which point I looked around the room and everybody's hackles went up. Like jaws dropped. Everyone was like, what the fuck?
It is so weird to see Hurley of all people, giving this really kind of creepy performance, just because he seems so just low energy, just so like trapped in his terror of what's going on, and just the way he just passes this stuff over as if it doesn't really mean that much to him one way or the other is just so jarring. It's great work by both Matthew Fox and Jorge Garcia, just especially with Jack trying to seem like reasonable, like, well, Hurley, let's just talk this out, and then getting more and more unnerved as it goes on.
I think it just proves like what a fantastic actor he is. I'm just his range. I love watching him.
And it's also, maybe a reminder about where Jack's ultimate story is going to go as well, that like what does and what doesn't lie in his future. That it's not just about right now, you playing house with Kate and raising Aaron is not what you're supposed to be doing, but also what Jack will ultimately end up doing with his life. Back on the island, they get to the medical hatch, and based on how Faraday insists that he go down first to check it out before Charlotte, Jen and Son just trade a little back and forth about whether or not Charlotte knows that Faraday has a crush on her. And I know they spend a lot of their time either separated or at some kind of emotional distance, but it's really fun to actually see them just trading tea about the other survivors. And I wish we just had an episode that flashed back to them being like, I think Sawyer actually kind of likes Kate. Oh, but doesn't Jack like Kate? Oh, I know. It's going to get messy.
Oh, maybe the three of them should just fucking get it over with already. And it's during this that we get a nice little oh shit moment that's really subtly played by what's Charlotte's actress's name?
Rebecca Mader.
Rebecca Mader. Yeah, we get a nice little subtle moment from her because while they're talking about Jen straight up asks Son, like, do you think that Charlotte knows Daniel's got a crush on her? And Charlotte's like, oh yeah, of course she does. She's a woman.
Son.
Sorry. I'm just going to keep fucking up names and dates this whole episode. It's going to be up to the audience to decipher what I'm trying to say. No, Son tells him, yeah, of course she does. She's a woman. And Charlotte kind of looks back and smiles, which is the exact same way that Kate figured out that Son speaks English way the hell back in season 1.
Very nice little continuity nod. And back in Sawyer and Claire and Miles land, Lapidus comes running out of the forest and gets them to hide just before Keamy and the other survivors come out. Surprising number of them survived having like the smoke monster tear them apart. We don't know how many guys came to the island with him, but there are, 3 guys still in looking like roughly okay shape, and then one guy who's pretty torn up. Possibly a few people who got left behind. Yeah. But so good showing by the smoke monster. If we had never seen any of them again and only found like pieces of them scattered around the island, I would have believed that too. We do get an interesting thing where back on the beach, Jack is walking, and I think we all noticed it around the same time. He's got a tattoo on the inside of his left forearm that I could swear was not there in earlier seasons. I haven't gone back and looked, but I remember him just having like the Chinese characters, which the show never addressed and certainly never did an episode about, but were definitely there in the first season. And yeah, I was like, does he have more tattoos than he did when the plane crashed? Which I was like, that can't be right, because even if Matthew Fox got more tattoos, TV shows have makeup departments that like cover up people's arms and stuff if that happens.
They do. They also have like managers and people who would be slapping him on the wrist going, no, don't get a fucking tattoo on your forearm that you're going to have to get covered up every day. That just seems like so odd to me that...
There are stories from when they were making the TV show 24, where every season is supposed to take place within a single 24-hour period of a day, where actors would get like haircuts or do something else to change their appearance, and then like an episode or two later, their character would just get shot in the head. Like the writers would be like, "Okay, smartass, you trim your beard the wrong way. Well, now the terrorists are going to kill you."
Well, Cara has some very strong opinions.
Don't I always?
On this whole off-island flash-forward romance thing.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a surprise, but I realized, again, that I hate Jack and Kate on island and off.
It was interesting when this episode began and you see them like being cutesy in the bathroom and everything. I looked around the room and I'm like, no one here is into this. Katie, not into it. Gina, not into it. The three of us. Robert, you got a note here that you're not into it. It's just, how do you fuck this up?
Yeah, this show has just got so many great love stories. It sucks that the one that involves the two most central characters just does not land. I do like where it is, because by the end of this episode, Jack is going to be well on his way to becoming the guy we saw bearded, drunk, and shouting at Kate, about needing to go back. And this is the episode where we see him trying not to become that person. And I actually do like a lot of the choices Matthew Fox makes of just playing like the awareness of the path that he might be about to start down and trying to avoid it. I think he plays it very well, even if I shrug at the overall relationship, but how it fits into his journey is pretty neat in this episode. I think there's another case where we made simultaneous notes that got jumbled around each other. Back at the beach, when they return with the supplies, Jen takes Charlotte aside and tells her that he knows she speaks Korean, and she tries to play dumb, and Jen sees through it by just maintaining a perfectly calm face and an even tone of voice, explaining that he's going to break Faraday's fingers one by one unless she admits that she understands him. And again, he's being pleasant tone of voice, not shouting, not glaring, but just the flickering torchlight and Daniel Day Kim's perfect bone structure just makes it seem super intimidating.
Especially because it has been a while since we have seen this Jin. Early season 1, we've had a lot of character development from shouty, angry all the time, low-key misogynist Jin to doting and loving husband fighting for his wife. It's easy to forget that the man was a mob enforcer. And in like one scene here with Charlotte, we see, oh yeah, no, that guy's still in there. And he will break Daniel's fingers if he so chooses to. I just love that for Daniel Day Kim.
And ultimately what he's doing is he's telling her that she needs to make sure Sun gets off the island, that needs to be her priority, which I think he'd previously promised Sun separately. He's like, whatever it takes, I will get you off of this island. And we know that he keeps his word, although he does not make it with her. John Terry as Christian Shepherd shows up both in the flash forwards and the island present, and in both cases, he's creeping out one of his children. In the present, or even the flash forward, Jack sees his father in like the waiting area of the hospital. And in the past, Claire wakes up in the middle of the night and Christian he's holding Aaron, right? Mm-hmm. Holding his grandkid, well, quote unquote, his grandkid, and beckons Claire to go off into the jungle with him. I actually made a mistake here. I wrote down, see you in season 6, Emily Ravine, because I remembered Claire not being around for a while, but she does show up in the very next episode, so that was my mistake there. But, good to see Christian again, but he is on his creepiest game for this episode. We eventually do find out that Jack's, they end up putting him under. Juliet and Bernard make the decision to drug him because he's freaking out a little bit. And when Kate comes to see her after the surgery, I kind of made a joke of paging Dr. Bechtel, which, David, you know the Bechtel test, right?
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. Cara, do you?
Nope.
Alison Bechtel, who was a writer, I think she's mainly a media critic, right?
Yeah, I think so. And also comic book author, possibly.
I think that you might think of Gail Simone.
Yeah, no, you're right. I am. Yeah.
Gail Simone did Women in Refrigerators, which
that's
is a
right.
separate thing we don't have time to talk about.
No.
But Alison
But
Bechtel,
also, sorry, also relevant to the show.
Yeah, we could talk about that when it comes around.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Alison Bechtel basically had kind of a feminist angle on analyzing, particularly film and television. She came up with what's called the Bechtel test as sort of a shorthand for just how a film treats its female characters. And she's like, in this movie, it's a 3-part test. Are there 2 named female characters who have a conversation with each other about something other than a man? And a lot of people kind of oversimplify that and treat it as if it's like a thumbs up, thumbs down test about whether a movie is good or not. And as people pointed out, a movie with only one speaking female role, and that's like the only character you see in the movie, something like Gravity with Sandra Bullock, would fail the test because it's just one person on screen most of the time. But that doesn't mean it's not a movie that's interested in a female character.
And your initial reaction, I think most people would be like, well, most movies are going to pass that test, right? Obviously.
But none of the Star Wars films do. None of the Lord of the Rings doesn't.
If you go and really watch the way that female characters interact in most movies and TV shows, nope. And even this conversation wouldn't pass because what are Juliet and Kate talking about? Jack and their shared relationship.
And again, does not mean that those scenes can't be good and dramatic, but once you notice it, and it's not a problem you have with most male characters, that while male characters have romantic relationships, they also have drama about jobs and ambitions and all the things that well-rounded characters should have. So it's more of a lens for analysis than a pass-fail test, but it is something that people bring up a lot. And
apparently now that's all I'm going to see.
Well, again, once you start looking.
Well, and that's just, I think every movie from here on out will. Mm-hmm. Yep. Great. Thanks, guys.
It's just one of those things. The more you learn about it, the more a lot of this. It's one of the things that ruins movies for me sometimes. If I'm looking too hard for something, or if it clicks in and I go, wait a minute. Yeah.
I try not to do that anymore. I try to just let the movie happen to me.
And again, there are plenty, like I just mentioned, there are plenty of great movies that don't pass, but it's more of just general, oh yeah, this is a trend that Hollywood should work on more. We do end with Juliet recognizing that Jack and Kate clearly have strong feelings for each other and being an adult about it, just telling Kate that she's going to back off and just let her and Jack figure things out for themselves. Unfortunately, we see how that works out in the flash forward where Jack is now, he got one of his coworkers at the hospital to write him a prescription. He's drinking heavily and he's freaking out at Kate because she's making phone calls and keeping weird hours. I wondered if like we were skipping ahead in the time frame, that this might be like several months after the first flash forwards of the episode, but Jack mentions that he just saw Hurley the Friday before. So in fact, no, he goes this far down in the space of about a week at most. Eventually Kate confesses that she's doing something for Sawyer, something that Sawyer had asked her to do, which we haven't seen yet. And Jack freaks out and shouts that Sawyer chose to stay, which, given what we are going to see in the finale, is really a dick thing of Jack to say based on...
He didn't really choose to stay, but also file this one under like bad communication kills because, yeah, Sawyer, like Kate tells Jack, Jack asks her, why won't you tell me? And Kate's like, he wouldn't want me to. Okay, but just, this is your fiance here. And
we didn't even mention that. Yeah.
Oh, they get engaged. Good for them. But
Yeah.
no, like, okay, sure. Your old flame asked you to keep a secret. Cool. This is the guy that you're going to marry and that you're raising a kid with. This is an appropriate time for you to say, okay, well, he asked me not to, but here's what's happening. And if she had been like, if she's taking care of Cassidy on the side and Cassidy's kid,
That's
or
what
like helping them out, I think is what we find out.
Yeah, I think Sawyer's like, can you look in on my daughter?
Yeah, Clementine and Cassidy. If Kate had said that, Jack would probably still be like, okay, well, that's strange, but, you're not having an affair.
Yeah. I mean, she totally brought it on herself, though, like, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because just be upfront.
And because he tries to ask her and she's just like, trust me, I just need you to, as if she's like smuggling heroin and she doesn't want him to be implicated or something.
If somebody is like accusing you of cheating, saying like, just trust me, don't worry about it, is not the way to go.
It's very much the don't ask me about this super important mega secret thing I'm doing. So yeah, and I think it ends with him shouting that she's not even related to Aaron, and Aaron hears that, and we don't know that they've broken up, but it definitely seems like, okay, Jack is well on his way to the bad skid.
And it also ends on a very Hallmark note because, of course, they turn around and there's little Aaron clutching his stuffed whale. He's been watching the whole thing, and a tearful Kate has to go and pick him up because we can't have an episode without Kate crying about something.
So Aaron is what, 18 months?
Maybe
2
3 years old
Oh,
at this point.
three at this point?
Yeah, August or early September, and he was born in July, so 2.5. Oh, yeah, no, a little over 2 years
he was
old.
born less than a month after the plane crash, so...
Yeah.
That's right. I was confusing babies. I got my babies mixed up.
There's so many.
This is Aaron, not
like-
Gian. Yeah, no, born in October of 2004.
Okay, so yeah.
All right. So that, and I have a note here that I already kind of mentioned, which I forgot that we have one more appearance from Emily DeRavin this season. But yeah, otherwise after that, Claire's gone for a little bit.
And we are going to move on to episode 411, Cabin Fever. Let's see if I can say it correctly this time. It takes place, like the episode before it, on days 2020. God damn it. No, it takes place on days 98 and 99. Hey, I said it.
Yay.
And this one is a Locke flashback episode.
Actually, just a normal flashback to his life before the island.
Yep, no flash forwards in this one. In fact, we kind of go all over the time periods with John Locke, starting out with something that the show introduced in season 2 and has fallen in love with, the pop music on a record player opening. This time it's Buddy Holly, and we see a teenage, maybe early 20s girl dancing along in her very 1960s bedroom.
Based on her dynamic with her mom, my feeling was teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
17
like,
maybe.
I'm going out and you can't stop me.
But I love him.
But Mama, I love him.
Well, she loves him so much she runs out into the road and then immediately gets hit by a car.
Because fuck you, John.
It literally started in the womb for that guy. And that's
Oh
that's
my
kind
God.
of the low-key theme of this episode, was just the concept of like fate and meaning for John Locke's life intersected with just a whole bunch of really bad breaks.
The universe was trying to kill him as a fetus.
Yeah, so he is delivered 3 months early, and I didn't really look into this, but surviving birth 3 months ahead of your date in the what would this have been, 50s?
Yeah, I said 60s, but no, John would have been born in the 1950s.
That would have been an extraordinary thing. And I mean, they mentioned how impressed they are by his resilience, but I think even today, like a 6-month birth is still a very touch and go thing.
Well,
sorry, you
well, upsettingly, as Emily, John's mother, is trying to leave the house, her mother says he's twice your age, which means that among all of Anthony Cooper's other questionable acts, he seduced and impregnated a teenage girl in what had to have been his mid to late 30s.
And given that they don't seem to be living in a life of particular luxury, this doesn't even seem to have been like a con job. He just apparently did it for the fun of it.
Man, fuck you, Anthony Cooper.
So I'm going to pull up the clip of Sawyer strangling him on YouTube again. I'm trying to remember if this is something I talked about in earlier seasons, but as Locke is being taken out of the room to be put in the neonatal care unit. Incubator, there we go. His mom shouts out, "John, his name is John," which I think might be a biblical reference to John the Baptist in the Bible, whose father basically was mute for several months before John was born because he didn't think it was possible his wife could get pregnant. He only got his voice back when he insisted that they wouldn't name the baby after him. They would name him John, as the mother had been told. And when he wrote out "his name is John," his voice returned to him. So it's one of those fun little surrounding the nativity stories. And I was never sure if that was meant to be a reference or not. Let's see. Oh, yeah. We go back to the freighter where we check back in with Saeed, Desmond, and Michael, who we haven't seen in a while. Keamy gets back and is pretty steamed about the fact that Ben knew who he was.
Keamy was steamy.
Oh, we get that. We get his shirtless, we get a lot of steamy Keamy this episode.
Yep.
A fun little moment in the background where he finds out that the captain knows who the spy on their boat is, and you see Saeed behind him realizing that Keamy is about to go and either torture or just outright kill Michael, and he actually looks like he feels a little bit guilty about it. Luckily for Michael, when Keamy goes to confront him, after asking a few questions, he puts a gun to his head, pulls the trigger, and it just clicks, 4 or 5 times in a row. So Michael's anti-death plot armor is still in effect for a little while.
I do want to interject real quick. After giving this show so much shit over the last couple seasons about gun safety and gun handling and how no one seems to understand it, it is a nice touch that the first thing Keamy does is take out the magazine and check the barrel, clear it to see if it's an actual jam or not, and then reloads, and then asks Captain Galt to fix his gun for him. It's so rare to see proper gun handling on this show.
And let's see, this is, back on the island, Hurley, Locke, and Ben are still traipsing around, not knowing where the Jacob's cabin is. There's actually kind of a funny bit where Hurley realizes they've been following him when he assumed they were following Ben, even though Ben, as he points out, wasn't even walking in front. And there's just a little bit of a round robin. They eventually camp for the night, and Locke gets up and sees Horace Goodspeed, formerly of the Dharma Initiative, cutting down trees to build what will eventually become Jacob's cabin. And I just noted, I'm not going to get into this again, but Horace is one of those weird cases where on this show where we have a very nice character played by an extraordinarily creepy actor. The scene does get a little creepy as he just kind of keeps going through the same motions while repeating the message John needs to hear, but Doug Hutchison, creepy dude.
Yeah, very much so. And apparently, I cannot remember what it is called, but what John sees in his dream where Horace is cutting down a tree and then turning around and noticing John and interacting with him and dropping some advice for him, and then this repeating is a phenomenon in the paranormal community. I wish I could remember what the term for it is, but it's like repeating phenomena or something like that, where spirits will get stuck in these repetitive motions. You've heard of it too, Cara.
Recurrence or something?
Something similar to that.
Yeah. Oh God.
There's at least one listener out there who's more into the occult that we are, who's like screaming at their radio or their phone, like, "No, it's this."
Idiots.
But this, along with like Christian appearing in the woods and Hurley dropping those really weird lines, they are really ramping up the horror elements, and I am here for it. I love it.
Just in general, I didn't really make this a specific note, but these 2 episodes do a fantastic job of just building up momentum into the finale. Like when we got to the end of this episode, I think all of us were like, "Oh man, we're ready to go." Like I'm very excited for next week.
Well, in John's like first proper flashback, when he's maybe 10 years old, something like that, sometime in the 60s.
Well, I think this note was about when he's still in the hospital, because somebody comes to see him when he's still...
That's right. I forgot about the hospital thing.
He's just been taken out of the incubator, but his mom freaks out and because she can't deal with being a mom as a teenager, and runs out of the room. And then her mom rather nonchalantly lights a cigarette and turns to ask the nurse, "So what about adoption?"
And standing not too far away, looking into the room, is a dapper, well-dressed man with very pronounced eyes. It's Nestor Carbonell returning as Richard Alpert, not a day younger? Older than the last time we saw him. And when they cut to the close-up of his face, Katie went, "Shut the fuck up."
I just wrote, "Yay," and also, "Eek." Because he's always a little unsettling, but man, I love seeing that guy again.
I just want to know, like, I hope selling his soul was worth it, because we've been watching the morning show, and that motherfucker looks the same today as he did then. It's rude.
Yeah, I saw a video because I started our own Instagram account and followed a bunch of other Lost accounts, and somebody did a side-by-side of like, here's an actor in 2005 when they were on Lost, and here they are in 2025. And in most cases, there is very little difference. And I'm like, man, fuck you. Like, Saeed's actor, help me out.
Naveen Andrews.
Aside from like shaving his beard, he's clean shaven now. Looks exactly the fucking same. I'm like,
I had to go look him up.
Yeah, he's still got the same glorious locks of hair. Fuck you, Naveen Andrews. I don't really mean that. Don't hurt us. So as they are trekking through the woods, Horace Goodspeed in John's dream tells John where to go next. Tells him to go find him, which means going back to the murder pit, where all the bodies of the Dharma Initiative's guys who got gassed were thrown. And Locke tells Hurley we're going to make a pit stop.
Knowing full well where they're going, but Hurley doesn't.
Yep. They make a literal pit stop, and John still gets to get a dad joke in there, too.
I love it.
Oh, shit, and I didn't see your note right into that.
That was like the John Locke and his very morbid dad jokes. I didn't really note it down, but it's interesting. We also get a hint about they're teasing out like the history of Ben and Widmore's antagonism in a very admirably subtle way. One of the things that gets mentioned is Hurley asks if Ben was responsible for what happened, and Ben said it actually wasn't his decision. It was the leader of the others who decided it. And when Hurley points out that he thought Ben was the leader, Ben just says, "Not always." And we eventually will find out who was leading the others back at the time when this attack happened. But in Locke's history, we see, again, just continuing his long string of people in his life kind of treating him like crap. We see him getting yelled at by his foster mom and having his backgammon interrupted by his foster sister. And I just remember that he had that really great monologue in season 1 where he talked about his sister dying on the swing set and a dog coming in that like seemed to contain his sister's spirit or something. And it's nice to see the writers kind of giving us sort of this bow on Locke's whole story, given that starting next season, everything's going to be sort of more forward-looking.
And it was around this time that I wrote down, man, this show gets really fucking good when they know what they're doing. Like when they know where they are going, when they are on a path. which is what was wrong, what felt wrong about season 3 when they were just sort of floundering with where the hell they were going. Now that we clearly have an idea, the writers and directors knew where this show was going, they are fucking cooking.
Can you imagine what this show could have been if they had known from day one? Mm-hmm. I mean, we could have had 6 seasons just like this one.
Well, keep in mind that we're also on set 3 or 4 showrunners.
True. Yeah. And I don't know what that means exactly. I just know the word. But yeah.
I also kind of struggle because at the same time, there are so many things that happened that just were the product of, oh, hey, we tried doing an episode where these 2 characters click together, and oh my gosh, this is a great pairing. They need to have a lot more with those stories. You know, a character like Desmond, who really wasn't meant to be a big part of the show, but, you know, hey, let's rewrite things because this actor's amazing and people love him. Or, and
Michael Emerson.
Yeah, just like, it's Storm, because it's like, yeah, it gets so good when they've got like a clear, like they know how far the throw has to go so they can arc it perfectly. But at the same time, I'm really glad for some of the experiments they were able to do in the 3rd season and the changes they were able to. So I don't know. It's the trade-off of how network TV used to work.
Yeah, very much so. And in this flashback, Richard Alpert, seen again about 10 years after John's birth, comes to visit to give John a test. And when you see him last time, it's easy to just go like Katie did, holy shit, without really like stopping to think about it. But the last time we saw Richard, like we've seen him on the island, and then we saw him in 2001 when he was talking to Juliet and recruiting her to Middle-East bioscience, getting her to come to the island. Now we see that he does not look a bit different, either in the 1950s or in the 1960s, which is our first indication, like, there's something off about this guy.
I think in Ben's flashback, we saw him meet Richard when he was a younger man.
Shit, you're right.
And Richard had, like, the long hair, sort of the wilderness other look, but otherwise was the same, so...
That's right, and that would have been the late 80s?
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, it would have been mid to late 80s.
Yeah, somewhere. So I think this is like taking him back further, because now we see that he was in the hospital when John Locke was literally a newborn and still looking exactly the same.
The test.
Yeah, so the test is kind of a fun little call out to how, I forget what the term is. I think it's in Hinduism. It's like a tunku is the term, but like the idea of like spiritual leaders who are reincarnated across different lifetimes and share a spiritual connection to a previous one. The most famous case being the Dalai Lama, but an actual test is you give someone who you think is one of these new incarnations objects that belong to the previous incarnation and see if they can recognize the ones that belong to them in a previous life out of a field of many other ones. And we find out actually, I didn't remember this at the time, but one of the objects that, because Richard puts some stuff on the table in front and says, tell me which of these already belong to you. One of those very literally is the property of John Locke. And I'd forgotten about that till I was doing some reading on this episode. But season 5 and it's time travel. Can't wait for that one. He ends up failing the test because he grabs a vial of sand and a compass, which seem like they're correct. But then when he picks up a knife, that's when Richard shuts the test down and walks away, giving Locke his lifelong abandonment complex. You can see on the face of this young actor just the moment where Locke's obsession with being a man of destiny and also being crippled by the thought that he might not be just kind of just seeds right there.
Richard also doesn't confirm what the other item was supposed to have been, but I think it had to have been the Book of Laws, right?
Book of Laws might have been the comic book, because we remember there's one other character who also brought a comic book to the island who ends up having an important role to play there. And I think the title of the comic is something like, what is the secret of the hidden land, or something that ties in. So unclear, but it's interesting why, like, the knife, which is something that all of us would associate with John Locke, is not the correct thing for him to choose.
Mm-hmm. We already talked about it briefly, but yeah, Horace was the one that built Jacob's cabin. Good old creepy-ass Horace Goodspeed.
And I mentioned that, again, we're finding more about the relationship between Ben and Widmore and how it plays into the island. We find out that there's like a secret, 2 keys required to open safe on the freighter that has a, basically a fallback. Like, if things go bad, open this. That reveals where Ben's next hiding spot is going to be. And Keamy retrieves that. Mentioning that, and we see like there's a Dharma logo on the folder.
Sorry, I've been taking my mic out whenever I cough, and I forgot to do it that time. My bad, guys.
And then let's see. I think this was your note.
Oh yeah. So back on the freighter, after we see a new named character. We hadn't met him previously. One of Keamy's guys named Omar gets sent away by Keamy. I can't remember what it is to go do because that's not the important part. The important part is over Omar's radio, we hear a familiar Morse code signal coming through, which this is the middle of day 99. Daniel sent that message at the end of day 97. So it takes a full day and a half for that message to be relayed to the freighter.
But okay, so this is where my mind just kind of went, wait, what?
Mm-hmm. As it should.
Okay, because it took a day and a half to get from the island to the freighter.
Mm-hmm.
And included in that message is, hey, the doctor's here and he's dead. And
they also got Omar's response right after sending it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which is he's fine.
And we're just seeing Omar get it now.
Mm-hmm. And the doctor is still alive when he gets the message that says, hey, the doctor's here and he's dead.
Poor guy. Didn't even know it was coming.
Uh-huh.
So how? What?
Time travel, baby.
As I think, how did Daniel put it? Your perception of how long your friends have been gone may not be how long they've actually been gone.
Mm-hmm.
That things go weird when you're traveling to and from the island, and that applies apparently to radio signals as much as to people.
That's why old Regina and Minkowski got the brain scramblies.
But, I've got so many questions. I'll stop.
And shortly after this, in another flashback to John's teenage years, we see him as a high schooler who literally got shoved into lockers and he gets pulled out by the principal, who tries to tell him that, not being a tough guy is kind of a good thing. Like, you go and do this. You could be like, you go to this science school. This
Middle-O's Science.
Middle-O's Bioscience is interested in you going to their summer camp. Fucking lost time. And John's like, no, I don't want to do any of that. And it was shocking to me how good this kid playing teenage John is, because he's got so many of the mannerisms and the voice tics. I have to imagine that, he had to have watched Terry O'Quinn perform this scene and okay, all right, that's what I'm looking for right there. It's just so good.
Yeah. And just kind of a repeated theme of Locke having these opportunities at something greater and either missing them or not making the right choices, and just all of these things that put him on the path to the island. We also, back on the freighter, see poor Lapidus is now just basically his mission is trying to keep as many people alive as he can. We saw him get Sawyer, Aaron, Claire, and all them to safety earlier, and now he's trying to find an excuse not to fly Keamy back to the island, because it's indicated that Keamy is going to literally burn the place to the ground when he gets back, and we see them loading more RPGs and explosives on there. Yeah, just I love Lapidus so much, because he really does just seem like he's always just got one extra thing on top of what he was already doing. Just this sort of harried guy trying to just keep his bearing straight in front of everything.
No pun intended.
Jeff Fahey is just so good. All the new freighter folk just get their own little showcase.
So shortly after this, Captain Galt decides that it's time to get Saeed and Desmond off of this ship and back to the island. So he shows them a little outrigger that they've got and is going to send both of them, even though Desmond decides to stay. Saeed is going to head back to the island to start getting people to ferry them back to the freighter. And as Saeed is getting on the boat, we get the return of the season finale traveling theme music. All 3 seasons have had a very, very specific "we are on a mission now" theme, whether it's going out to find the black smoke, or we're going off to find the others, or whatever. I heard that theme come into the soundtrack, and I was like, yes, here we are. We're fucking back, baby. It's not even the season finale yet, but we're there. It's beautiful.
So Locke, Locke, Hurley, and Ben finally locate the cabin, and they both tell Locke that he should go in on his own. But Ben does give him a warning where he says, "You'll understand soon enough that there are consequences to being chosen, because destiny, John, is a fickle bitch." Which, Locke, you have no idea how true those words are going to feel for you over the next season. We finally get sort of the last of Locke's flashbacks, where we see him in the physical rehab center where he's recovering after his injury, where one of the orderlies is none other than Matthew Abaddon, just Lance Reddick, always so welcome, who gives Locke a little pep talk and even suggests he go on that walkabout that will eventually bring him to the island. It's a lot of kind of teasing, just indicating that like he also had a miracle happen to him, that he knows he and Locke will meet again somehow. Really sets Abaddon up to be a huge player, which is not really going to be the case, because between this and season 5, Lance Reddick got cast in Fringe, which was also produced by J.J. Abrams. So while he was off being awesome over there, I think we're only able to bring Abaddon back for one more appearance in this show, which too bad, because great character, a lot of potential, but can't blame Lance Reddick for taking a full-time job somewhere else.
Yep.
And now I want to go watch Fringe.
Cara, do you want to circle back around to the time travel thing that you got here in the notes?
No.
Because shortly after this, this is when Lapidus is refusing, which good on him, to take Keamy back to the island when he's watching them load up fucking rocket launchers onto his helicopter.
And knowing for a fact what a psycho Keamy is, still like just planting his feet and saying, "You can't kill me because then you don't have a pilot," which, for all he knows, Keamy might just kill him anyway, because Keamy likes a killing.
Yep. But just because Frank might temporarily be saved doesn't mean literally anyone else is, because Keamy responds by slitting the doctor's throat and throwing him overboard, which is how he then proceeds to float for a day and a half backwards through time and end up on the beach at the beginning of day 97.
Breaking Cara's little brain.
Yep. So wait, he floats, he washes up at the beginning of day 97 that morning. So he goes back 2.5 days. Yeah. That's fucked up.
And Keamy is not done whittling down the list of recurring actors on the call list, because he, after a brief standoff with the captain, who tries to finally pull both rank and a gun to prevent Keamy from taking off, Keamy grabs the gun from one of his other men and shoots the captain dead as well. So yeah, he is now effectively the only authority figure left on the freighter, and rather than let anybody else get killed, Lapidus agrees to take off with him.
And just because we're keeping track, once again, goodbye, Captain Galt.
There was something... Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Something that's a fun little moment. Back on the beach, they hear the helicopter coming in, and we get this shot that kind of pans left to right as we see characters get up from what they were doing and all get together in a line and look out, which calls back visually to one of the famous shots of the pilot, where the first time they hear the monster in the jungle, and we get this shot of all of our main characters lining up and just staring out, not sure what's out there, and just, looking scared and confused. And we get that, except this time they're looking out to the water as they hear the helicopter come in and eventually fly over, which, again, another nice button on just this sort of bookending this era of the show, of the people who were surviving from, that first night after the plane crashed to here.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that Lapidus did before he took off from the freighter is he took one of the little beacon tracker thingies that he can keep track of everybody. He wraps it up and stuffs it in a bag, and he chucks it out onto the beach for the group to find. And Jack's like, oh, they want us to go find them. Oh my God, Jack, Jesus. Man, I'm just hoping he's still like stupid from the anesthesia or something.
That's what I'm thinking, because Juliet makes a point of chastising him for getting up so soon when he should be resting. So yeah, he probably is still high on painkillers and actual literal pain.
I hope so.
In the cabin, Locke goes in and finds none other than Christian Shepherd, or someone who looks like him, who explains that he is not Jacob but can speak on his behalf. We also see Claire over there, just kind of hanging out in the corner and seeming high, maybe? Just unnaturally calm, given everything going on. So, Cara, before you got here, Dave and I were actually talking, because it's been interesting for both of us to realize that there's a lot of stuff in the coming 2 seasons that you might not remember from your first viewing.
Totally don't.
So I kind of, we've always said that we're not a spoiler-free podcast. We're happy to talk about where things are going or what the big picture is, but I kind of don't want to take away some big moments that might still land for you just as much on the second viewing. So I'm just going to say the moment where, I'll call him Christian, asks Locke if he knows why he's here, and Locke says, because I was chosen. I don't know what direction they gave John Terry or what he knew about how he was supposed to play this scene, but the way he kind of smiles in this almost pitying way and goes, that's absolutely right, John, is such a beautiful piece of foreshadowing for where both of these characters' stories is going to go, and just the attitudes between them. It's such a beautiful, tragic, perfect moment for what's coming ahead. And I don't want to go further than that, because if you don't remember, it's such a great moment to come. A lot of great moments to come. But yeah, this is Locke finally having what he thinks is the destiny that he's always had, that he's always he's missed or stepped away from or made the wrong choice. He's finally in his moment of destiny, and he gets to ask, how do I save the island? But we don't hear the answer to that, because we cut out to a beautiful, 30 to 45 seconds of awkward comedy with Ben and Hurley just sitting and waiting while Locke's in the cabin.
Well, before we do, we see who's sitting in the corner there, and Cara had a question here.
Well, is Claire dead? I mean, obviously, I guess the answer to that should be obvious that yes, but the fuck?
Yeah, well, the last time we saw Claire, she was being beckoned off into the woods by what appears to be Christian Shepherd.
Dead.
Dead Christian Shepherd, yes.
We know, but interestingly, Miles sees him. He tells Sawyer that he saw Claire leave with someone, but we know Miles can
also
have some communication with dead people, so that doesn't really clarify.
Yeah, well, but
you will get an answer.
Yeah.
Okay. In the next 3 episodes?
In season 6.
Fuck.
Because as Robert has already pointed out, for real this time, by Emily DeRavin, we'll see you in a season and a half.
Fuck.
She doesn't show up. I want to say it's like 3 or 4, maybe 5 episodes into season 6.
It's a ways in.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. But yes, so sitting outside of the cabin, we see Ben and Hurley sharing a log. And Hurley, always good for a hidden candy bar, pulls one out and then breaks it in half and shares it with Ben, which is a very sweet moment between the two of them, but also very nice foreshadowing for what's going to come from the two of them much later on.
Similar to the scene with Christian, don't know what the directors knew or the writers knew or what the actors were told, but it's a great moment that fits into the big picture. And before much else can happen, Locke comes out and explains the grand strategy for saving everyone. They're going to move the island. And we cut to the lost without seeing Hurley and Ben's reaction to that, which is a little bit of a shame, but...
Because I think we all agree that what we wanted was a cutaway to Ben and Hurley looking at him and then saying at the same time, what?
But you have to assume Ben knows that the island can move.
Yeah, probably, but still, he probably never thought they'd actually do it. We've gone a little long, so I don't want to get into a big dissertation, but it's interesting to look over these both these episodes that give us kind of one last look at Jack and Locke before all of the big things that happen in their lives at the end of the season. And it's always been interesting to me that they're both sort of the hero archetypes that we see. That Jack is he's a handsome doctor, he's a healer. He's the guy who is the main character on any one of like a dozen medical dramas that, are airing on TV right now. And Locke is a chosen one. He's this guy who has a destiny and is meant to do great and amazing things. And it's really amazing. What makes this show special, among so many other things, is how it takes those characters and really just lets them fail more often than not in what they try to do, just because they're so personally messed up. Because Jack is just burning up with this pressure of what he's supposed to be and what he doesn't think he can live up to. And Locke's self-doubt and just how easily he's like his idea that his destiny might not be what he thought it is, or maybe he's missed his chance again, that makes him so susceptible to manipulation by people like Ben and other figures on the island. But it's a great little piece of table setting ahead of the finale and just ahead of the next two seasons, which again are pretty well mapped out at this point.
Yep, and that's going to wrap us up there, which is probably a good thing that we only did these 2 episodes, because we had a lot of thoughts just on these 2 alone. And I imagine that the 3-part finale is going to be a lot longer than usual, because there's a lot that's going to happen in this next batch of episodes.
You might have a 2-part episode on a 3-part finale.
It's possible, yeah. But I mean, fuck it. Let's just go like long. If it's a 2-hour episode, it's a 2-hour episode. We're already at an hour 11, whatever. But we spent a lot of time. Part of the reason this episode ran long is because we stopped to discuss like when the hell does the flash forward stuff take place, because we like dates, we like figuring out when things are, but I also just like looking back. So our relevant dates for around this time. So this episode is releasing on Thursday, October 23rd. So looking back on October 27th, 2004, a little almost 21 years ago, House of the Rising Sun, episode 106. On October 19th, 2005, so right around 20 years ago, nothing. There were no episodes. It was on a 3-week break. But on October 25th, 2006, 19 years ago, there was Every Man for Himself, episode 304. And then we won't get to the rest of it until January, because January 08 is when season 4 started. Robert, before we wrap up, we all kind of hate social media, even if we are way too beholden to it. So, Robert, what thing are you enjoying or promoting or doing right now?
Dang, not all that much. I haven't been reading a lot since we got back from the cruise. So, music. Music is nice, folks. What music you like, listen to it.
Agreed. Cara, what about you? What are you on right now?
So right now I am listening to a book called The Summer of 1876. And it's a really interesting thus far look at obviously the summer of 1876, where lots of things happened, like the Battle of the Little Bighorn and Custer's Last Stand and Jesse James and Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson. And it's like, and also baseball. Like, all of these things like sort of happen at the same time, and it's easy for me as a historian to forget that nothing happens in a vacuum. And honestly, I don't know that I would have said, yeah, Jesse James and Wyatt Earp, they totally walked this earth at the same time. To me, they were just in 2 separate universes. So it's been very interesting.
Very nice. Well, if you would like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at Long Walk Podcasts. I'm trying really hard to stay on top of updating that regularly, like people with an actual social media presence are supposed to do. Still not great at the whole social media thing, but it took me a little over a month to finish it. by Stephen King. And as I texted Cara afterwards, man, fuck Stephen King. Making me feel feelings. I read the book for the first time when I was around 14, so I was slightly older than the kids in the 1958 section. But now at 39, I am the age that all these characters are in the 1985 section of the book. And it just hits so much harder now as an adult than it did the first time that I read it. Stephen King, you're a monster. But anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.
You go.
It's called a residual haunting.
There we go. Robert, what was your thing?
Podcasting is a fickle bitch.
There it is.
Ah.